Hello, Suns fans. This is Suns Latest. I am Rich Rubin, just over 1,000 subscribers as of this recording. Thank you for sunscribing. You are no longer a sub, you are now a sunscriber. And thank you to FanArch as well. Let's get right to it because we got a game tonight and there's some interesting news out of the Warriors camp. But the quote today is, I believe the only muscles you need in basketball are the ones in your brain, Nikola Jokic. So Joker's arguably the greatest player of the last 10 years. I mean, there's definitely an argument for it. I mentioned recently about him when he was 17. He would play one-on-one against EuroLeague and Serbian players and just any pro and would frustrate them when he was 17. So think about that, or he wasn't as big and powerful as he is now, where he uses his body as good as anybody ever has. And he frustrated these guys, and he'd have to explain to them because it was innate with him. He was simply born with a brain that saw things coming 5 or 6 steps ahead of everybody. And if you watch a Nuggets game and you watch Joker play, that's what makes him Joker. He just knows what's coming. Remember people talked about Magic's court vision and his awareness? It's weird to say that somebody has it over Magic Johnson in that realm, but Joker really does. I mean, Bird had it, Magic had it, LeBron has it, Michael had it. The greatest players ever simply knew what was going to happen before the guy guarding them. And then Jokic's stoic nature, where he just is not worried about being defended. He's not worried about you, which has got to be unnerving if you're trying to guard somebody like him. Anyway, I know SGA is a phenomenal player, but he palms the ball and he pushes off, and the refs let him get away with it. Because the NBA is all about change. But Joker should have been MVP last year, in my humble opinion. He's the best player in the league again this year. He's that freaking good. But at a young age, he understood it's all cerebral, and he has clearly milked that. And I've always loved this guy, and I think he's phenomenal. He's so much fun to watch because he sees the game differently. So news around the NBA, and this came out of the Warriors camp. And I know I went over and over it with Kuminga before the season started. But, well, just hear me out, all right? So there's a cool article by Anthony Slater, great writer, by the way, on the state of Kuminga, the Warriors, and his relationship with Jimmy Butler and Steve Kerr. Butler hasn't been brought up in this conversation, but Jimmy Butler's pretty much taken Kuminga under his wing, as Butler has been in the same situation throughout most of his career, being in places where he wasn't wanted. He wasn't wanted in Chicago after a certain point. He thought, screw it, I want to be the main guy. And they said, no, you're not the main guy. And he said, all right, I'm out of here. Definitely wasn't wanted in Minnesota, and he made it very clear. Started out great in Miami, wasn't wanted in Miami. I don't remember what happened in Philly. I think that might have just been a cash thing with them because he seemed to be doing well with them. So Jonathan Kuminga started the season well. It looked like he was locked into the starting lineup. Jimmy Butler takes him under his wing. Coach Kerr taking a chance on him, especially when Steph went down. Really, Kuminga's a great scorer no matter how you slice it. So Warriors start 4-1. And then they go 5. Then they lose 5 out of 7. And Kuminga starts turning the ball over a lot. And then his knees kind of go. And that's a little concerning for somebody so young. So Kerr puts him back on the bench. And this has been the ongoing soap opera between Steve Kerr and Jonathan Kuminga. The second Kuminga does something that Kerr doesn't see that fits, he's back on the bench. And that is where the rift is. And Kerr, he doesn't like the kind of player that he is. He just doesn't like him. He doesn't like where his head's at, which is weird because Jimmy Butler and Kuminga are the same type of player. But Butler, let's face it, Butler figures out a way to make you like him and to win games. And if you don't like somebody, but you like them in spite of the fact that you don't like them and that they help you win games, well, then that's going to go a long way. And Kuminga doesn't have the Jimmy Butler gift yet. The knees kept him on the bench. So rumblings of Kuminga needing to grow up and not letting the holdout. Remember, before the season, they just couldn't come to agreement on a contract or anything. So there was the holdout. And what keeps coming back to Kuminga and the situation is he hasn't shaken off the resentment that he had against the Warriors for not making him a starter, for not giving him the exact contract that he wanted. Then again, his team and him turned down offers from the Suns and the Kings. So it's kind of this fustercluck of a situation between everybody on the Warriors. So it's good for the rest of the league, especially somebody who wants Kuminga. It's not good for team morale. But he's not being trusted as a regular starter, and if he's not playing to be a starter, or be the future of the team when Steph finally can't do it anymore. He needs to at least realize that he's trying out for a contract from another team. And think about it. He's really talented and he's really young, and when he decides to, he's a ferocious rebounder. He's got all this skill and tools. He's got all these skills and tools, yet he can't seem to get out of his own way. And I think that is key. And I think that's what Coach Steve Kerr sees. And he doesn't have to play him if he doesn't want to. Kerr's earned that. So Kuminga is eligible to be traded mid-January. We talked about this all summer. He will be gone. New twist. I don't want him on the Suns. This was the last thing I said. This is your opportunity. I watched them out of the gate 4-1. It's like, oh crap, here comes Kuminga. I talked about it on a recent Suns latest, and then look what happened. Now, to be fair, his knees are bad, or that he's just injured, but he can't seem to get out of his own way and work his way back into the starting lineup. So I mentioned this would be his best chance to show the league what he can do, and he's laying a freaking egg. So as of today, I'm done with Jonathan Kuminga. I'm curious where he ends up. It's not going to be on the Warriors. All right, so Timberwolves in town tonight, Friday, 6 p.m. I can't stand this. Like when the first thing comes out with the schedule, it says 7 p.m. on the Suns schedule, and then you go to Suns.com or you go to like 3 different entities, and it's like, no, it's at 6 p.m. So is that pregame or is that game time? I'm going to figure this out. This is driving me nuts. It's like, I remember when I growing up as a kid, every game started at 7:30 unless it was nationally televised during the day. So this is making me nuts. I have a feeling that's for TV. So 6 p.m., but I think tip-off's at 7. I could be wrong. Injuries for the Suns. Grayson Allen, game time decision. We could really use him against the Timberwolves, but if that thigh bruise is not healed, keep him out. It's fine. And it's really important to see Colin Gillespie and Goodwin get more minutes now anyway. It's fine. Jalen Green out until, December 18th. For the Wolves, Jaden McDaniels, game time decision. Very important player for the Timberwolves and really good. Everybody wants a guy like him. Terrence Shannon, who I've never heard of, is out. Spurs at Suns on Sunday, the 23rd. No Wemby. He is out with injury for at least another week. So if you were planning on going to see Wemby on Sunday, change your plans. He's not playing. All right, let's get to your comments. We got a lot of them. And then we have our Suns Super Sub Legend of the Day edition thought up by Novetsev. This is so great. All right, Doug Drew. Wish the NBA used those ABA red, white, and blue basketballs. Oh, you mean that? Yeah. I saw this. It was on sale like halfway through doing Suns latest, and I've always loved the ABA, but red, white, and blue basketball. I've always loved this freaking basketball. I just always thought it was the coolest thing. The NBA called it the beach ball, and it's like, yeah, but it's still cool. Anyway, I don't know if we need another gimmick in the NBA. How about, we start calling, how about we let hand check fly again? How about we start calling palming and traveling and pushing off? Those little things that, are in the rule book. Maybe that's what we need. Playing Portland made me remember Cliffy Robinson. Uncle Cliffy was the subject of Suns Legend of the Day Hustler Edition. He was a fan favorite wherever he played, including Portland and Phoenix. Let's go, Suns. Right on, Doug Drew. At the Big C, Nassau Coliseum is on Long Island. It was also the home of the Islanders hockey team. All right. We're never going to finish this. So I'm definitively going to finish this today. I mentioned that Dr. J. Julius Erving played for the old New York Nets of the ABA, and that for one season, the New York Nets were an NBA team. The next year, they switched to the New Jersey Nets. Now they are obviously the Brooklyn Nets. And somebody said, no, it's the New Jersey Nets. They're not the New York Nets. Yes, they were. So here we go. And here's the history of the New York/New Jersey/Brooklyn Nets in one comment. in one comment. What's the word for when I response? Thank you. Nassau Coliseum on Long Island was the home of the New York Nets beginning in 72. But before that, and this is bizarre, and this is something none of y'all knew, and I didn't know until this morning. Before that, in 1967, one of the original ABA teams, the American Basketball Association with the red, white, and blue ball, were called the New Jersey Americans. They weren't the Nets, and they weren't the New York Americans. They started in New Jersey, which I didn't know. One of the original ABA teams for the first season as the New Jersey Americans, they played at, get this, Teaneck Armory in New Jersey. The next year, they moved to Long Island. So they were out of New Jersey and now in New York. They changed their name to the Nets to rhyme with Jets and Mets. Don't ask me why. It's silly. And would call the 4,000-seat Comac Arena on Long Island their new home until 72 when they moved to the Nassau Coliseum on Long Island. But now they were the New York Nets because they were playing in Long Island or on Long Island, New York, however you want to say it. So that happened. So with the ABA-NBA merger, the Nets stayed at Nassau one more year as the New York Nets. But they had to pay the NBA $3.2 million to join the league. Each team out of the ABA, they consolidated all the ABA teams into the New York Nets, the Indiana Pacers, the Denver Nuggets, and the San Antonio Spurs. Each of those teams had to pay the NBA $3.2 to join the NBA, and the New York Nets had to pay another almost $5 million to the New York Knicks to cover what was called invasion of territory. To cover those costs, the New York Nets sold the greatest player in ABA history and one of the greatest players in NBA history, Julius Dr. J. Irving, to New York Knicks division rival, the Philadelphia 76ers. Don't think that wasn't specifically planned. It's like, oh, we have to pay you $5 million a month. They had to pay them almost $10 million in 1975. That's a lot of money. So the Knicks squeezed them, and they said, all right, well, you're not getting Dr. J. That's exactly what the Knicks were thinking, and I'll guarantee you, if the Nets had said, hey, waive that fee and we'll give you Dr. J, it would have been fine, and Dr. J would have been a Knick. Didn't happen. Let's all be petty, and I think that's kind of cool. So the Sixers get Dr. J for $1 million. They immediately go to the finals, and Dr. J down the road finally wins the title, and he becomes Mr. 76er. The year after the merger, the New York Nets went back to New Jersey, became the New Jersey Nets, and would play their home games at Rutgers College. Then Brendan Byrne Arena at the Meadowlands. That arena is renamed Continental Airlines Arena. Then it becomes the Prudential Center from 2010 to 2012. And in 2012, they moved to Brooklyn and now play at Barclays Center as the Brooklyn Nets. Are we done? All right, moving on. B-Dub 4006. Suns played an amazing in Portland. It was reminiscent of the finals run in 2021. Maintaining a lead, getting a lot of great defense, swarming deflections and steals, going on several key runs each quarter, and getting key stops. They played pretty good defense against Portland. That's the way to weather all storms and to maintain the lead throughout the game. No arguments here. Mark Krieger, I like the posters on the wall behind you. I do too. They're really fun to bring out. What is the Supreme Court one? Just curious, that's all. It's a good thing I'm not a cat. Okay, so this poster, the Supreme Court. This poster is pretty well known among collectors and people who know about the history of Nike and how they did all the nicknames before MJ came around. So the Supreme Court poster was the first of the Nike. They weren't, well, most of them were nickname posters when they went to the individuals, but they did a couple of group shots. Supreme Court was the first one where they got all the Nike guys together. And there's guys like Phil Chenier, who played for the Washington Bullets, now the Wizards. Phil Smith of the Warriors. Artis Gilmore's in the middle. Bernard King is on this poster. Austin Carr of the Cleveland Cavaliers is on this poster. And there's 5 Phoenix Suns on this poster. You can't really see them, but there's Paul Westphal, Maurice Lucas, Alvin Adams, Dennis Johnson, and Truck Robinson are all on that poster. They all wore Nikes, and they all played for the Suns at different times. I'm trying to think. Westy and Truck played together when they were on the Knicks. Adams and Truck and DJ all played together. Lucas played with Adams. Westphal played with Adams, not DJ, not Truck. And yeah, so anyway, I like the fact that there's basically a starting lineup of Phoenix Suns on that poster. So yeah, that's what that poster is. And I made this KJ poster. I found a print, and I said, oh, I'm going to make that bigger. I love that KJ poster. That is a one-of-a-kind poster. It's not a one-of-a-kind photo, but it's a one-of-a-kind poster. So we had Rodney Rogers as our first of the Suns Super Subs Legends of the Day. Anonymous Rex, hello, sir. I love the fact that I can always count on a comment from you, and I love talking to you. Thank you very much. Rodney Rogers was a beast. He never quite developed into the star I thought he would become. He wasn't built to be a star. He was built to be this amazing six-man, a steady glue guy who could bang when needed. But Rodney Rogers was as good. Rodney Rogers was a specialist, not a star, not a dynamic player, but everybody wanted Rodney Rogers. He had a very respectable game and made a positive impact. Here's another super sub, Danny Manning. I remember when he was at Kansas with Manning and the Miracles. Yep. B-Dub. Oh, back to you. I love Rodney Rogers. He had some dope Nikes in 99 that I had to have. Okay, cool. So anyway, yes, we did Rodney Rogers. Of course, I'm going to get to Danny Manning. We have a different super sub today. I have a feeling some of you already know who it's going to be because he's currently involved with the Suns. Okay, so here we go. Curious Minds 2525. I was waiting for something like this. Thank you for commenting even before I read it. Rich, thank you for your kind words about my humble contributions to this community. You are one of the first contributors to Suns Latest on a more cerebral level, and I feel like I always have this amazing conversation. It feels like talking to a guy that I've been watching Suns games with my whole life. So I absolutely love and appreciate your contributions, and they're not You say they're humble. They make this thing what it is. A lot of you make this what it is, so thank you for this. All right. Therefore, allow me to give you more of my subjective opinions. The next 3 games for the Suns against quality teams should give us a good perspective on how the team has progressed. I have watched other podmeisters, not the people on this side, of course. Absolutely not. Yes, the people who delve in too deeply into an endless stream of analytical statistics and wrote the Sun season off before it even began. ESPN, Sports Illustrated, Bill Simmons, all of y'all. You know what you did. Broken records, all of you. Bill Simmons is coming around, though, and at least he pointed out that Colin Gillespie is good. So he's not redeemed. He'll never be redeemed. He's Bill Simmons. He's a Celtics fan. These same experts will, of course, change their tunes again, like the wind changes direction if the Suns lose their next 3 games. But I think that's fair. I really do. Now, for me, and I agree with you, Curious Mind, it's more the quality of the play the Suns display at this point rather than the wins or losses. We need patience as the Suns are still in a nascent growth phase. Nascent, well, there's a 6-buck word. Growth phase, hence my expectations are still tempered. After saying that, is it just me or the current Suns starting to resemble the McLeod-era Suns? What, of the late 70s and the 80s? A team made up of a star, Booker now, Walter Davis back then, surrounded by solid role players that are exceeding expectations as a whole. Well, you can talk about the 75 title team there. The sum of all parts exceeds the potential of the individual output, so to speak. We still need Book to get his 25, but I hear what you're saying. Today's Suns are limited by a lack of draft picks, tradable assets, and an owner's intent to stay out of the luxury tax this year, while during the McLeod era, Colangelo had limited money due to the smaller fan base in Arizona, and the original Suns ownership group didn't really have the money to spend wildly. This is why you are such a valued member of the Suns' latest community. So much to unwrap, but you're very welcome. Total agreement. The next 3 games we got. I know the next 2 are Timberwolves and Spurs, and the Spurs are going to be out for blood, but no Wemby. But like how I talked about with the Blazers, it's a game we need to win, but it's a game we're supposed to win. The Spurs are very good and young and athletic, but we beat them with Wemby with a very specific defensive scheme against Wemby. So how do we adjust? Watch Coach Jordan Ott adjust so we can play this team of basically all wings. But we should beat the Spurs. Tonight's game is different. Timberwolves are fine. Anthony Edwards is back. He loves playing against the Suns. He loves trying to prove himself against Devin Booker. I want Booker to dog his ass and let it be known that, young buck, it ain't you yet. That's what I want from Booker. And I mentioned in the last Suns latest that Booker seems to be on a mission, playing a little bit more quiet, not talking a lot, not angry, just like, you're not distracting me. Don't talk to me if you're not my coach. Other than the Spurs win, we need to show that we can hang with legit contenders, starting with the T-Wolves. And I agree, I want wins, but at this point in the season, I want to see how we handle a deeper, better team. Right now, to be fair, if you look at the Timberwolves and you look at us, that's a deeper, better team. Now, if Jaden McDaniels doesn't play, it evens out a lot. And Dylan Brooks is a real X factor for us against a team like the Timberwolves, where they're not going to run over us. He won't let it happen. Okay? And our three-headed monster centers of Oso, Mark Williams, and Nick Richards, that's going to be really important. We didn't have that last year. We have it this year, so it's a different look for the Timberwolves. So how are they going to handle us? There's some comparisons with McLeod era. I think Coach Ott is more flexible. Coach McLeod had a game plan. Coach McLeod came from the military. He didn't allow for a whole lot of improvisation. That's why he and Westy butted heads. That's why him and DJ butted heads. Walter Davis was a coach's dream, because he did what you asked, but probably the only Sun I remember during the Coach McLeod era where Coach McLeod said, yeah, Walter, go do your thing. Because Walter Davis, his infectious joy for the game and his absolute speed and the fact that he was completely unstoppable for like an entire game, that would win you the game. So Coach McLeod wasn't an idiot, even though he was regimented. So yes, Walter Davis was one of the few players that Coach McLeod let do his thing because it resulted in huge momentum changes. There's similarities. Coach Ott is letting Book and Brooks do their thing, especially since he might not have Jalen Green in the capacity that he thought. Also, Grayson has been, not to us, but a really nice surprise offensively after kind of going into a shell last year. Not Grayson Allen's fault, just the way it went. So, with that being said, this is going to be a really curious game. So, Suns fans, don't freak out if we don't look like the team we've been looking like. I don't think we're going to get annihilated. I think we have a very good chance to win. I think we are seeing what we are and seeing what we can do. And this is going to be a great test because this team has had our freaking number. And I would love nothing more for them to realize that it ain't the same anymore. You're not looking at the same team. That'd be really cool. All right, thought of by Novetsov, loyal Suns contributor and Sunscriber. Suns legend of the day, super subs. And I know I was going to go for Eddie Johnson. I had to go for Eddie Johnson. And yes, we'll probably do Danny Manning next. 17 NBA seasons, because when you can shoot like Eddie Johnson, there will always be a team that wants you. 6'7", 215-pound prototypical face-the-basket small forward. He could spot up. He could drive. Eddie Johnson was a coach's and team's dream. You always want a guy like Eddie Johnson on your team. Drafted 29th overall in 81 by the Kansas City Kings, formerly the Cincinnati Royals, now the Sacramento Kings. Spent 3 years with the Suns from 87 to 90, the very first Phoenix Sun ever to win Sixth Man of the Year. He did it in 89. He has been known, he never really had a nickname that I can remember off the top of my head, but what was known? He wasn't just streaky. He had this weird combination. Now, you've heard of scorers. Andrew Toney of the Sixers was a streaky scorer. Wasn't a great shooter, but he could get hot. Vinny the Microwave Johnson from the Pistons. The only piston from the bad boy era who I liked as a player. I like John Sally too. He was a streaky shooter, but he would get hot like a microwave. He would heat up and he would just make 6 in a row, and you'd have to call timeout because you're like, who the hell was that and what the hell just happened? But not like textbook jump shots. It was just effective. Eddie Johnson had a beautiful jump shot. Eddie Johnson was streaky. Eddie Johnson was a great shooter. Eddie Johnson was a great scorer. That is as rare a combination as you get. Eddie Johnson could be effective doing a whole lot of little stuff, but you wanted him to shoot the ball. He had a nose for the basket. There was a video years ago, I think it was called The History of the NBA, and Pat Riley was one of the main guys. And the narrator was talking about the current day guys. And he brought up Eddie Johnson, and I remember this so well. And the narrator said the torrid shooting of Eddie Johnson. Eddie Johnson not only didn't meet a shot he didn't like, he never met a shot he couldn't make. So rare. And that is why his career point total of 19,202 points is phenomenal, considering the guy came off the bench for almost all of his career. That's more than everyone but 30 basketball Hall of Famers. There's 30 guys that have more points than Eddie Johnson. I mean, that's Hall of Famers, excuse me. That's ridiculous. Never All-NBA, not even an All-Star, but ask anyone who played against him. When they saw Eddie Johnson come off the bench, you know what their reaction was? That was their reaction. Eddie's been the Suns TV analyst, lives in PV near Charles Barkley and every other retired Suns player ever. Eddie's really active on social media. He will engage with anyone. He loves to talk hoops as much as we all do. Your Suns legend of the day, Super Sub Edition. Thank you, Novetsov. Is Eddie freaking Johnson. Thank you for watching, Sunscribers. Sign up if you haven't. Go Suns, beat the snot out of the Timberwolves tonight.